Ladies and gentlemen, in this episode, you are going to hear opinions. And while the podcast is endorsed by Uriah Heep, the opinions of the host and various guests do not necessarily represent the opinions of the band or any of the members past or present. With that being said, let's celebrate the music of Uriah Heep. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am here with another song from the album Firefly as we are cruising through our 10th season of this podcast, diving into every single song the band has recorded. As long as I can get a hold of it, we're going to cover it at some point or another. And it has been so much fun, you guys, bringing you guys these songs. And you know, the letters that I get from people that are just experiencing Heep for the first time, or maybe haven't listened to this album in a while, it's pretty astounding how much passion people have for this band. And it's not surprising because the music is so good, but it's just always wonderful to see. And it makes me glad that I decided to do the show. It makes me glad that Mick Box agreed with my idea of doing the show and that he endorsed it. And onward we go. And you know, some great people have helped along the way. Ace, the band's manager, has been extremely helpful. Mick himself has been really helpful. Paul Newton has chimed in with a lot of great information. It's just been a lot of fun to get to know these guys, and they're all just fantastic people. There hasn't been anybody that I've met in the Heep family that I've been like, You know, everybody that I've talked to or had some kind of communication with has been very, very nice. And I feel really honored to be able to do the show and to bring it to you. But I didn't do it alone. You know, there are people that help out. And one of the things that you guys could do to help out is there is a Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/HeepRockHall, HeepRockHall, and sign the petition to get Uriah Heep inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio. They have been inducted into a European version of that, but let's get them into another one. They deserve it, guys. They've been around for over 50 years now, 24 albums, working on their 25th. They've done so many songs that are amazing and iconic. And, you know, even just for like Easy Livin' or Lady in Black or Salisbury or any of those, you know, individual songs that are amazing, they should probably be in there. But a 50-year career, always changing and evolving, but making it happen, making new music. You know, that's, to me, is a Hall of Fame rock and roll band. On top of the fact that they've had hits and been very successful there with some songs, just the fact that, you know, they've been around so long, they've hung in there, they've you know, sold, 40 million records or whatever it was. And, you know, that alone, as far as I'm concerned, deserves an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How they would handle it, you know, that I don't know as far as who would be inducted and who wouldn't. That's where I start to kind of fall off in my understanding of how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame works, because not everybody from a band gets inducted sometimes, and it's really weird. But the fact would be that Uriah Heep would be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So if you want to help, go sign the petition at facebook.com/HeepRockHall. And thank you, Dave White, for putting that together. We also have some people that have helped the show directly at the, you know, the Patreon account, and at the $5 Easy Living tier, we have Kenny Wymore. Kenny actually shared something really interesting with me about the Fallen Angel album, and we'll discuss that when we get to that album, which is another one that I'm very excited to get to, as well as all the ones I haven't done yet, and even the ones I did. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we have Peter Voss and Goran Eriksson, as well as Frank Thielgaard Mortensen. Thank you, gentlemen. And at the Oxygen Challenged Traveler in Time tier, we have Airtight Gravesite. Thank you all very much for your help. You guys help me pay for the monthly broadcasting fees. So that is covered by you guys, and I appreciate that very much. It's hard for people to hear the show if I can't broadcast it. So very much appreciated. And thank you, of course, to everyone who has left feedback on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. I've been checking some of the other sites like Spotify. I don't see a place that you can leave any kind of feedback or reviews. Same with Google Podcasts. And I know I have a lot of listeners on both of those formats. It really, Apple Podcasts or iTunes really is the best place to leave a review. It is where the most people listen to the show and the best place to have those comments seen. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to sign up for anything, but you can go to the site and leave feedback right there, as well as a star rating 1 through 5, if you like. Some other people that have made their impact on the show, my friend Scott Lazinski, who did an amazing job on the artwork for the show, the logo for the podcast, both the day and night, and the round logo that you see on Twitter. He did all of that and did a fantastic job. My friends at Audionamics, who have a program called IDC, or Instant Dialogue Cleaner, who help make the illusion that I do not live right next to the Las Vegas airport, because you have probably never heard a plane fly by in the background of the audio on this show. And that is because of the Instant Dialogue Cleaner. It's very simple to use. And Audionamics just revamped their website. It's really cool. And I have to say, I've been honored to be a part of that site for a couple of years now. They took a sample of a podcast that I had recorded on my other show, and they did like a before and after demo of how to use Instant Dialogue Cleaner, and that is up on their website. They also featured it at the NAMM show, and they have a quote from me on the website as well under the IDC page, which, I'm really honored to be there. It's nice to be able to say I'm at a professional level where people take what I do seriously, and they've, grown to have that respect for me, that they would be willing to have me represent their product on their site. And that really means a lot to me, and especially at the NAMM show, because any of you guys that have been to the NAMM show know what a big deal that event is. And to be at the Winter NAMM in Anaheim and to walk by their booth and see me on their screen, that was pretty cool, I have to say. And they're such wonderful people. Check their website out, guys. They have a couple of really cool products, especially if you're interested in learning, like solos or wanting to do, practice along with a song. They have a great track splitting program called Extract Stems, and check that out. And they're both very, very reasonably priced. There are a network of people that I am involved with on the podcasting side of things. My brothers in the Deep Dive Podcast Network, which has been a growing network as of late, which is fantastic. We've got the Deep Purple Podcast. We've got Skinnerd Reconsidered. We've got T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side. Sabbath Bloody Podcast, in the lap of the pods. I can never get that right. Hawk Binge and Maiden A to Z Pod, which are the last two are our two newest members. We've also got Brandon at Metallicast, who has been a guest on this show. And of course, Ace has his show, Ace on Music, which is on YouTube and Stitcher. You can check out a lot of great insight into the music industry. He's talked on a couple episodes about these non-fungible tokens that some artists are using to create kind of a hubbub for their projects. And I really still wouldn't understand how it works unless you have like a massive following already. Like Uriah Heep probably has a following that they could put out something like that, and that might have an impact. Most artists are not going to have the level of success or fan base where that is going to make a huge bit of difference. But I also just like the words non-fungible token. It sounds like something that you would get in a breakfast cereal. And it isn't, but it sounds like it could be. But check out his show. It's great. And also check out Allegra's website, gottahear'emall.com, where she digs into the concert history of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Deep Purple, and a ton of just fun things that she's found to put on the site. So check all that stuff out. And then, of course, my good buddy Dave White, who is Uriah Heep's director of social media, and who helps greatly with just spreading the word about the show. Very nice guy. You've heard him as a guest on the show before, and he's done a lot to help out the visible side of Uriah Heep. Apart from them being on tour, he works on the website and does all that. Thousands of things that are on there that you can check out. So a great guy to know, and he's been very supportive of me doing the show. So very much appreciate him. If you guys want to follow the show, you can go to scotthaskin.com and then just click on the Uriah Heep podcast link. All the shows are streamable there, as well as links to Uriah Heep's YouTube channel, their website. Some of the individual members have projects out that you can check out, like Phil Lanson's books and his albums. They have links for that stuff there. Russell Gilbrook did a great video on shuffles. I've got a link to that there. and then a link to the interviews that I've done with a couple of members of the band. Just really cool, lots of stuff there. So go check that out. You can also go to facebook.com/Uriah Heep Podcast. At Twitter, we're at Heep Podcast. Instagram, Uriah Heep Podcast. And then the email, if you want to get on the mailing list for the monthly drawing, go to uriahheappodcast@gmail.com. The sign-up link is at the bottom of my website, scotthaskin.com/Uriah Heep Podcast. And then just scroll down to the bottom and you can sign up for the mailing list there, as well as the Patreon, or you can do a donation through PayPal if you like. So that is it as far as the housekeeping stuff goes. Let's get into the song. It's going to be a really enjoyable one to listen to. Here it is. This song this episode, since every song has its own episode, is Sympathy off the Firefly album by Uriah Heep. Well, that's a pretty intriguing intro right off the bat, isn't it? I mean, we've got the nice pulse of the hi-hat there, but just the, that sort of dry picking of the guitar along with the delay of the electric guitar sounds really nice. I really like that. At first, I thought it was like a different delay on the main guitar, and then I realized, no, that's a completely different part. But it just at the very beginning kind of blended really interestingly. And but I like the feel of it. It's got a personality already. I like the addition of the third guitar, which is, very classic for Uriah Heep to do something like that, but very nicely layered. I think it's really well mixed, too. You can really hear everything very clearly with nothing overriding too much. Very simple bass line, though, so far, that's really just kind of creating that low-end edge that the guitars aren't giving you, filling in and making it a little more rounded. But very simple, nothing crazy on the bass yet, just, keeping with the root of it all and keeping the tempo with the hi-hat very nicely.
Sympathy just doesn't mean that much to me. Compassion's not the fashion in my mind. And if you're looking for a shoulder to cry on, don't turn your head my way, 'cause I'd rather have my music any day.
Well, he's not the nicest person, for sure. At least the character that we're hearing sung here. Interesting vocal, though, is just kind of saying, if you want warm and fuzzy, I'm not your guy. But I just love the delivery of it. Even when John Lawton sings a little more gently, he still has an edge to him that I really like. It's kind of like he sounds the same, but just quieter. I think his voice was just designed that way, but it's very pleasant even when he's singing more gently. Really like the sound of it. It fits the song well, too. I like that the way that the drums kicked in with the beat from Blind Eye. That was really nice. And then the bass is really grooving here. I like the way that it's playing up and down in the scale. Just sounds really good. It's helping the song move along very nicely. And of course, what the guitars are doing, they sound fantastic, even though, you've got a lot of reverb on the soloing electric guitar, not soloing, but the one that's playing the main lead there. And even though it's got so much more reverb than everything else, it blends in really nicely, but it also kind of stands out on its own, which I really like. And then, of course, the rhythm kicking in there is the same. Just really like the blend of what they've done here, because they're on par with each other, but they're also, unique to themselves. And it's a really good blend. That can be really tricky to pull off sometimes, but it sounds really good here.
You and I are masters of our destiny. We look for consolation all the time, until we find out things are not what
Man, John Lawton sounds really good when he does his own harmonies too. It's kind of like you've got the best of all worlds. I mean, you've got a guitar player that's phenomenal, but you've got a keyboard player that can also sub on, backing guitars or even kick in with a lead now and then. You've got a singer who can sing by himself just fine and double his own stuff or harmonize his own stuff. But then you've also got this, beautiful harmonic side of the band who can all sing very well. It's such an amazing combination of people. It's like which one do you pull for what song, because they're all so talented. And this song, it just sounds so good. I love the way that the vocals sound with the guitars too, because that's also very important. If your lead instrument is going to be a guitar, whether it's an organ on some of these songs, the voice has to sound good working with those instruments as well. I mean, there's so many components to it. And there's certain things that you can do with an EQ to, kind of balance things out a little bit. If the voice doesn't sound good with an organ, you can, kind of put them somewhat in different frequencies and kind of make them work together, put them in different spaces in the audio field with panning. But here, everything just sounds really good together as a cohesive unit. And I'm really happy with this song. Well, before we get into the solo that's obviously coming next, one thing I want to point out is this is the performance, I think, so far on the album that I've liked best from Trevor Boulder. Another new member of the band on this album, along with John Lawton. But he's been pretty mild, and I don't mean that his performances were bad, but as far as keeping up the tradition of how bassists have played in this band up to this point, really meandering up and down the scale, really standing out as an instrument. I think he's been pretty laid back as far as being adventurous goes. His playing has been fine. And, sometimes you do need to play a little more straightforward, but that seemed to be his style up to this point. On this song, he's really starting to show some of his skills. And I really like what he's doing here. I can see more now why he gained his spot in the band than I could on some of the previous songs, because he's done a little bit of that, the stylistic choices where he's more adventurous, but he's been more laid back on the songs. But here he's winning me over. Wow, I just love that part. There's so much emotion in the guitar playing there. In my right ear, very faintly, I'm hearing more of like a strumming on a distorted electric guitar, kind of replacing that dry picking that we were hearing before. But in the left ear, of course, you've got the lead guitar. And there's a couple of things that are really interesting to me about this. I mean, we've heard that there's a delay on it, which is very nice. But there's also, a lot of vibrato and bends being played here. What I like about that is that it oftentimes when you play that with a delay, if it's not set right, it can really just sound kind of muddy and, not really pleasant. But everything is just nailed so perfectly here that the whole thing sounds nice and clean. It's enjoyable. There's nothing that kind of crosses paths against anything else. It just really comes through shining. And that is two things. I mean, it's the programming of the effects, but it's also the performance. You have to nail a performance, and he certainly did here.
Dreams are the possession of the simple man. Reality, the fantasy of youth. But living is a problem that is common to us all. We love the only common road to truth.
Isn't it interesting how long those guitars held that note without changing and really let the vocals come through with the pitching? I always find it interesting when bands do that, because it certainly shows that they have a lot of strength musically, but also they believe in their vocalists, that their vocalists can carry a part like that, because they have no melodic support there. You know, the guitars aren't going up and down with what they're singing. Nobody's following along with the vocals. It's just laying a bed and leaving that open space for the vocalist to perform and let you know the ups and downs of the emotion of it. I really like parts like that, and I think they pulled it off here very well. You know, one thing that might be a little bit difficult for you guys to hear unless you're listening on some pretty good headphones, there's a bunch of ride notes that Lee Kerslake is playing, and I've mentioned before he doesn't really go to the ride a whole lot. I think it works in this song, though. I'm glad he made that choice, because it does help bring the song along a little bit differently than you would if you were just playing on a hi-hat. But it's kind of faint in the background, almost more so than anything. The drums definitely overpower that. But yeah, it was a nice choice. It's nice to see him move his arm a little bit to the right once in a while. Well, that was kind of a fast fade, wasn't it? That could have been, you know, maybe 4 or 5 seconds longer would have been nice. I like the reverb that they added to the voice during those screams there. I really like the way that his voice in this last part too sounded with the guitars. He wasn't quite singing the same thing that the guitars were doing, which I'm glad, because that can kind of get a little monotonous sometimes for me anyway. But I really like the way that his voice sounded in those screams. As they were playing at the same time as the guitar. I think that blended very, very nicely. But yeah, that seemed like a fast fade. But either way, yeah, pretty cool song. I like the mood of it. I like the way that they switched the rhythm guitars from dry to distortion. I think that was a really nice touch. It's good to have a rhythm guitar that keeps things moving along with the bass and drums as well. Definitely like that Lee played some ride on this. And yeah, a great riff, great sound. Really good mix on this one. The only thing I would say personally would be I would probably have brought up the hi-hats and the ride just a little bit, put them a little bit more in play in the mix, because that also helps, you feel like the song is moving forward. It keeps that rhythm for you. But overall, yeah, a great song, and I'm really glad they included it on the album. I say that a lot, but the thing is, any of these songs could have been choices to not put on the album. And, any of the bonus tracks could have been ones they put on, or they could have left the album a track shorter than they did. They could really have done anything. But whenever I hear a song that I like, that's on the album, I'm, grateful that they chose to put that on there. But then I hear a bonus track. I'm like, well, I wish that would have been on there, But either way, we're getting to hear them all. So that's the most important part of it. And that will do it for this episode, folks. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Monday. If you're one of those folks who works on a Monday, I hope that your day passes very quickly and cleanly. The beginning of the week can sometimes feel uphill, but it doesn't have to. Do something great, guys. Have a great day, and we will be back tomorrow with another song from Firefly. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!